Yeah.
There you go.
Ooh, awesome. Great idea, because it's been like, oh, we didn't record any of this.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, no, I got involved in funeral service when I was 13, and um I just loved it. It's one of the few places where still where if you're black, um not really, well, for a reason, don't want to go to university, which is a huge financial burden, you can
Mm,
still come out making, good money, particularly if you decide to go that far. But even if you don't, you can come out making, you know, decent money, and really be able to build yourself to, into something else, especially now where the American funeral industry is in flux because of this whole cremation movement. So a lot of funeral directors well, a lot of white funeral directors are kind of scrambling because they don't quite know what to do with it, but they have to deal with it, right?
okay.
Um, because they're not their coins are getting snatched because they didn't go to school for for
Yeah,
cremation. So now you have a lot of cremation societies, or individuals that are more fluent in cremation, i.e., I don't need to go to a funeral home to service my loved one anymore. So that's the whole thing
great.
that, yeah. So that whole thing's happening in this country now, and I see that you pretty much do that kind of work outside, work with and also work outside of funeral spaces,
Yeah,
or the traditional funeral spaces. So the Black community is not there yet,
yeah.
but give it 10 years, we're going to move because we follow, want to say it or not. Um, we follow those practices.
Yeah.
So give us some time to get there.
I think
But yeah,
I think some time and a
mhm,
few pandemics
yes,
will be the thing that pushes more people to say, you know what, it's cheaper, quicker, and easier. Let's
yeah,
just go down the cremation route,
right.
because what has seen the change really in the UK with us,
Hmm.
predominantly burials straight down the
Hmm.
line. COVID came and it's like, oh, well, actually,
Hmm.
maybe, yeah. So a lot more of our elders are being cremated. Sorry to interrupt.
Hmm.
Carry on. What were you
No,
saying?
no, no. But yeah. So I've right now I manage our uh central prep facility, or our care center facility. That's where we do all of the embalming, all the dressing, all the casketing.
Yeah.
So I manage that location work,
Yeah.
and embalming. But I've worked throughout pretty much the whole gamut, from funeral director and embalmer, to just embalmer, transfer technician or removal technician. I do all, still go out in the middle of the night and service families in that way.
Mm,
But now I'm looking to really branch into education, because that's filling my bucket a lot more, particularly post pandemic.
yeah.
Because we all really, unless you're in ownership, um, there's only a certain ceiling that you can reach professionally,
Yeah.
and then ultimately too, if we're being honest, the the death care industry has been very abusive to non-ownership.
How do
Uh,
you mean? Can you explain that?
well, there's this notion that, there's a very much a love of the game mentality, if you know what I mean. Like, it's all for the service of the family. This is a calling. It's a ministry. Okay, well, I'm also have no time for myself, no time for my family, no time for my kids. I'm missing out
Yeah.
on life, on
Yeah.
on whole life, quite literally. I'm having to operate on a different time paradigm than the rest of the world. And for years there's been um no
Balance.
balance,
Yeah.
or no attempt at trying to make balance. There's
Mm,
another post-pandemic thing that I've noticed. It's happening now because, you know, one, people like me are just like, yeah, nah, like I'm looking at other avenues, and then two, there's not enough people coming into the profession
Yes, yes.
to,
Mm,
and I think we've caught on, and a lot of people have caught on. So even if you get on like LinkedIn now and just put yourself out there, all these companies are going to start throwing opportunities at you. So if you're willing to get up and move, you're 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 in a much better position than you were, say, 10 years ago when you were in funeral service as licensee, and you would just have to just jump around different places to find,
yeah.
find somewhere you want. But yeah, so I'm seeing that a lot now, and I'm happy to say I haven't, I don't have any kids or anything, so it's not I don't quite feel that pressure, but I've seen that pressure on my colleagues.
Yeah,
And I've also had never had a inclination to want to own my own funeral home because
yeah.
when I go on trips like this, I'm gone. Whatever
That's it.
happens there, yeah, whatever
Yeah,
happens there's going to happen.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but now I'm hitting my goal of hopefully being able to get on to teaching at the school full time. So we'll see what happens. But that's a little about me. That's where I'm at now. What about yourself?
Well, gosh, I don't even know where I would start. Where do I start? So this death thing, you know,
Hmm.
it kind of has always been part of my life. That's what
Hmm.
I've realized. And it's a journey, the actual sort of experience of death. I am in a place now where I know death. I overstand death. I get it,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
and that in itself is quite freeing. But basically, what happened was my mother was a nurse and she worked with people who were experiencing cancer. And my dad was an engineer on the underground. The underground. Have you been on the underground yet?
No, I haven't. That's the
The
subway or train
subway.
system. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Hmm.
subway. Yeah. So, they both kind of came across death situations, my mum more so. And she would come in from work in the morning and I'd be like, did anybody die last night? It was something I was always just like, what is this?
Hmm.
So I always knew about death. I had experiences where within the family, I came very close to the dead.
Hmm.
Um, but nobody ever told me about grief. I didn't understand, I didn't know what grief was. That was a whole different thing. So
Right.
when my dad died, it was like, okay, he's dead. I get it on a, mental level. But then I wasn't prepared for what came next. And
Hmm.
then how the family disintegrates and how, the whole fallout, just everything. Years later, in I think it was 2015, my aunt passed away, and I was able to visit her in hospital and spend the night with her. And I realized at that point that it was like, hold on, there's something more that's needed here. This isn't enough, The night that I spent with her was fantastic, but no nurses came in to check on her. There
Hmm.
was no personal care or
Right.
attention.
Hmm.
Then when she did pass away, I realized that my cousins and my uncle were not actually part of a Black community.
Hmm.
So where are our florists? Where
Hmm.
are our Black funeral directors? You know, who's doing the catering? Who's doing the music and all that kind of stuff? So I trained as a death doula. I don't use the
Hmm.
word doula because that means slave in Greek. So end of life guide. And I
Hmm.
also trained as a funeral celebrant.
Hmm.
But then what I realized is that they don't have anything for us.
Right.
They're not catering for us. And I was the only Black person training in those groups. And I
Hmm.
was getting really kind of frustrated. And then when I qualified as a funeral celebrant, I went out to all the funeral directors and said, I'm here, I'm ready to work.
Yeah.
And because this is such a deeply ingrained, very, very racist institution
Hmm.
in the UK, I just had doors slammed in my face.
Right.
instead of me say, woe is me, it's like, all right, fine, I'll just set up my own. And so
Right.
that's what I've done, you know. So FACFO is the Federation of African and Caribbean Funeral Operatives.
Hmm.
I'm looking for everybody up and down the country who looks like me and does the work that I do. And
Hmm.
I think that there are a lot of people who are doing the work and they don't realize it.
Right. Right.
When, yeah, when we know what to do, we've been dying longer than anybody else on earth. We are the
Right.
oldest people.
Right.
So when someone dies, we instinctively just step in and right, okay, I'm going to sort this and I'm going to sort that. But
Yeah.
not everybody's part of a community.
Unity. Right. Right.
Also, so I'm also able to train everybody up to do the work that I do. And
Hmm.
that's the intention as well, because we do need more people in, but we also need more education.
Right.
You know, the fact that over here, the whole industry is not governed, it's just been passed down through the generations.
Right.
So there's no reason why we can't be doing this. On a
Hmm.
spiritual level, I'm like, does it actually make sense that you're giving your body away to somebody who's never respected you? So do you expect that they're going to respect your body in death? You know?
Exactly. Right.
Now, I'm not accusing our white counterparts of abusing our bodies, but I'm just also saying that maybe there are some things that we can be doing or that we do, like washing the body, like creaming
Hmm.
the skin, greasing the skin, bringing the loved one back to a satisfactory condition, as opposed to being told, oh yeah, you can't visit, we
Right.
don't advise it, you know,
Right.
deterioration has set in, when actually I've got a team of people that can actually bring mum back to, you know, beautiful standards, you know.
Right.
So it's about bringing more people in. On a personal level, my personal practice is called dipism, which is
Hmm.
death in practice,
Hmm.
dipism, because death is a way of life. So whereas FACFO is literally just for African and Caribbean people, so
Hmm.
that they can find whoever it is that they need to do the work authentically within the community.
Yeah.
Dipism says death is universal. We all die. We all grieve. We're all
Hmm.
going to die. You know, we're all
Hmm.
going to experience grief. So that's me, the practitioner.
Hmm.
And so I've written two books, My Life's Tapestry, which is an end of life guide for people to fill in so that their families can then go to the hospital and say, this is what mum wanted. This is what dad has said, you know, or they can go to the funeral director and it's down there. So you can't upsell. You will do this and you will do that, you know.
Right.
It's also a gift for the future generations as well, so that they can look back and say, great, great, great grandmother or whatever wanted this, did this, went to that school, you
Hmm.
know, this is my family tree. These are our rituals and traditions, you
Right.
know, and it's a lovely book. So there's that. And then there's the biggest thing, as I said before, was the grief. And we don't address grief. And because we don't address it, as far as I'm concerned, that's where our illness comes from.
Hmm.
And so we then go off to the doctors to be medicated for something that actually we probably just needed to speak about.
Yeah.
But where we're coming from is like, you don't talk your business, you don't, you
Hmm.
know, what happens in the house stays in the house. When you go out the door, you everything's fine, you know.
Right. Right.
And this is what's killing us, you know.
Hmm.
So Tapestries of Grief is the other book, and that's a workbook that's designed for group work so that we can all come together and have these conversations about our traumas and our abuses, and
Hmm.
then recognize as well that a lot of this has been handed down through the generations, you know,
Right.
for all we know, maybe even prior to enslavement.
Hmm.
We've got a lot of work to do. We've got so much work
Right.
to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find myself in the academic sphere as well,
Hmm.
because you know, I've had people say to me, well, how can we fix you, you black people? You know, how can we sort this out? It's not for you to sort
Hmm.
us out. It's for us to do our work ourselves. And yeah, I've had kind of a few revelations in the past few weeks, really, that have really sort of brought it home to me even more that we need to look at our spiritual lives. We need to sort that out,
Right.
because that has a direct effect on our physical,
Hmm.
and experiences that we have. So that's me in a nutshell.
You
That's
hit on, yeah, you packed a lot in that in that nutshell there. It's one thing I was thinking about as you were talking, it's I think well not I think we take for granted in America these, even though we're still not as could we still not, don't have the community base that I wish that we had. But
yeah,
what you're saying is like there, until you stepped in, there was like I can't force, can't find a black film director, can't
yeah,
like at least in our community, we at least know who like whether there's more or not, we don't know, but we at least know who the black film director is. We at
yeah,
least know who's the black caterer is. Like we at least know on a basic level, you
yeah.
know, those type of things. And in my head, I would have figured that that would have been something similar in the UK.
We have less than 20 currently, as far as I'm
Mm,
aware.
hmm.
And not all of them are on my directory, the factory
Yeah,
directory. But yeah,
yeah.
we've got, it's not easy.
Mhm.
And then we've also got that kind of notion of the white savior. So
Yeah.
a lot of our brothers and sisters don't actually want to use a black funeral director, you know. I had a
Mhm.
conversation with somebody yesterday who told me about a conversation that she had with a funeral director. So a woman had come to see one of our funeral directors, got loads of information from her, and then went down the road on the same road to a white funeral director's. So our funeral director said, "Well, why did you go to them? I'm here. Black
Mhm.
people don't know anything about death. What do you know about death? You don't know nothing about death." So she went to the white people down the road, because obviously they know about death and we don't know about death.
That's so interesting because on I know on my end, like that is specifically the reason why don't go to white funeral directors is because historically they have mistreated our corpses.
Right.
Like, that's kind of their MO is mistreating black bodies, like living and dead. That's kind of the point of of America, the nation state. But
Yeah.
yeah, like that's like the whole foundation of that's really the whole foundation of our profession is we will serve you better than
Yeah.
than them. Wow, that's
But
heavy.
you know what? Since working with Cami in the way that I have, I really do have to put up my hand and just say I'm all for I'm all for segregation. If
Yeah,
that means that we can have black businesses and come together and be united as a people,
yeah,
segregate us, do it because it's necessary,
right,
you know?
right. Yeah, or at least and that's a like you said, it's something up here because it's even maybe not even segregation, but come to me first. And
Right.
if come to me first, second, and third, and then go to the Hispanic person, go to the Chinese person. But
Edwin,
don't go to these white people first.
no, I don't want to give you my money. If I
Yeah,
give you my money, then you're gonna expand. You're gonna get big. I don't want to see you succeed, Edwin.
yeah,
I don't. You're like me. We're down here. We
yeah,
can't. That's the mentality. If I give you my money, then you're going to be better than me.
right.
I don't want you to succeed. It's
Let me
deep.
find out. That's the real pandemic that we got to figure out.
It is, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
it's it's killing us.
yeah. Can you tell me more about your because I'm also working on my PhD in history and I'm thinking of this new of the it's not a new concept. It's because there are no new concepts to me. It's just we put words to what these things mean. So
Yeah,
I've often thought about death as praxis or death as practice. So very
yeah.
much in those same terms. Um, and I guess where else that translates, and you saying you know it translates on a spiritual level,
Mm,
definitely,
mm.
in affecting our physical. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? I think I know what you mean, but could you expand more on that?
Okay, so we are spirit beings.
Mhm.
And if we're looking specifically at the those that are referred to as black, let's say, then what sets us apart is the fact that we have a different type of melanin that comes with many gifts that we are not aware of.
Mhm.
So essentially, we are spirit beings. We're not actually completely aware of who we are or what we are. And for that reason, we're just going round in circles, but we are so very powerful. Now,
Mhm.
even vibrating at a very low level, which is where we find ourselves now, we still radiate a magnificence. We still radiate a power. We're still
Mhm.
great and wonderful, even if we don't know it.
Mhm.
Now, when there is a disruption in our connection or in our spiritual being, let's say we have a spiritual body, let's say we have a psychological body and a social body, and so many different types of, there's so many different types of Laura, so many elements of me that make me who I am. So if I experience a break in my spiritual body, did I lose you? Okay. If I experience a break in my
No, I'm
spiritual
still
body,
here. Mhm.
oh, you are, okay, then it's going to have an effect on all the other bodies that make Laura,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
And if that's the primary body, if being of spirit is the primary body that kind of makes us, that animates this avatar,
Mhm.
then if something goes wrong there, then you're going to expect it to have an effect. Now, I don't know, because you've said that you are, part of a church. So I don't know, maybe you um, believe in the concept of ancestors, or maybe
Mhm.
you believe in the concept of past lives.
Mhm.
I believe that we've got all of that going on as well. And that when that period of enslavement happened, there was no time for us to sit down and say, flipping it, that was bad, isn't it? How was it for you? Let's heal, let's
Right.
sit down and talk about it. So our
Mhm.
ancestors passed their trauma down through the generations. Our spiritual links were broken, they were severed at that time. And so because of that, we are at our worst spiritual state right about now. And controlled religion hasn't exactly worked in our favor, you know and that's me try not being disrespectful, but there are so many examples that we can see where it's not
No, that's
actually
the truth.
right. So we need to be healing our spiritual body, and we need to recognize that we are actually part of a community. And when we do the work to heal
Mhm.
our spiritual body, then the community comes together. And then we are able to mentor and support our members of the community, because we all come with gifts. We are all so amazing, we're all jigsaws, parts of these, pieces of this massive jigsaw. We've all come to earth with a job, with a purpose. The thing is, we forget it, certainly through that first 7 years when we are formulating our minds and living in different dimensions. We're programmed, it's programmed out of us. We have to conform to this life that actually
Mhm.
isn't a natural life. We've been told this is normal, this is real. No, it's not. It's not real.
Mhm.
And that's why we have conflict, because we don't know who we are and what we're doing, but we're living in a system that's not created for us. It's been created off our
Mhm.
backs and off our power, because we are so great
Mhm.
and wonderful. I feel
Right.
like I'm ranting, but I don't know if that answers the question. So the spiritual, there's a breakage in the spiritual, which is why we find ourselves where we are today.
Yeah. No, no. Yeah. No, no. You, no, that was awesome. I'm thinking too, that's one of the more, one things well, not my students, a lot of them are white and don't really care, but whenever I get into conversations with, some of my other colleagues about, death from a cosmological standpoint, that's one thing that's so powerful about just us as people. Like that's the one thing from an American slavery context that we just, for some reason, we were able to hold on to with some of our death practices.
Yeah,
I don't know like what happened that that our enslavers took everything else from us, but when it came to burying our dead, they were like, okay, y'all go on over there and do
yeah.
that.
You do that.
I'm gonna be over here. Yeah, I don't know what power took place, you know, in that moment.
Yeah,
On top of the fact that that's still one of the only times we'll gather as a community and get together,
yeah.
you know. Um, so
Mm,
I often think that, not think, I truly feel death is one of those, still one of those very sacred spaces where um they can still be sites of revolution, you know. They
yeah,
can still be gathering places
yeah,
where, you know, like you say, we repair those spiritual disconnects, or it ought to be that. But then, like you said, we don't have those. I know we certainly don't have those mechanisms to be able to bring us closer together. And some of that's
yeah.
community, some of that is those African spiritual practices that my people will tend to demonize, or
Mm,
look at as not valuable.
mm.
Um, in your work, do you work with um do you work in that space at all, as far as uh death practices that can be restorative also?
You are on, I think you're in dangerous ground here. This is the reason why I created FactFo. I
Hmm.
wanted to be able to have a base in the UK and all over the world. Like I wanted to be able to connect with people all over the world so that we can bring back these teachings and these practices and these ways, because I
Yeah,
instinctively thought we're not doing it right.
yeah,
First of all, from the time we've got a white person up there who's doing the funeral and bringing the body in and out, we're not doing it right. But
right.
surely there are rituals and traditions that need to be upheld and
Hmm.
played out. And if that's the case, then isn't it important that we be doing it? Is there
Hmm.
perhaps a chance that when we are making that transition, we're not going to where we're supposed to be and we're being led to somewhere else? And so when we
Mm.
reincarnate, if that's something that you believe in, then maybe we are coming back slightly altered, or maybe not at all.
Right.
Or maybe
Mm.
if we're not dying properly, as in, as far as I'm concerned, we're not doing the spiritual work and elevating our vibration so that we're not going in fear.
Hmm.
When we have work, when we have trauma and abuses and stuff that we didn't deal with back then, and then we die, if we do reincarnate, then surely we're going to bring that back with us. It's not as if there's like a big washing machine in the sky that says, right, okay, that's it, you come back fresh. These new children, these ancestors that are born, are carrying
Hmm.
tons and tons of stuff that does
Right.
need to be cleared, and we don't clear it. And then in this lifetime, we put more junk on it. And so, we find ourselves in a terrible situation, but we still smile, we
Yeah.
still grow. So yeah, um there are spiritual practices that we shun over here as well, we don't know about, and it's that fear, no, we're not going to go there. This is what we have inherited. This fear is what we have
Hmm.
inherited, because as far as I'm concerned, there was a time when we used to celebrate death.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, that was a graduation. It was a leveling up. It's a
Yes.
transition. You've
Hmm.
done your work. We celebrate you. Thank you for all the gifts that you brought in. And it's true what you said. And I noted this a few years ago. The slavers would leave us to do that.
Right.
One thing they weren't messing with, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So obviously there's great power in that, you
Hmm.
know. From the time when in the UK you've got them old white people who are robbing graves and stuff like that, there's more to death than we realize. And I personally see it as a gift. I think it's beautiful.
Well, yeah, yeah.
Grief is a gift. And I think when you know death and when you know grief and when you are able to see it for what it is, you can
Hmm.
turn around and say, there's no such thing as death. It doesn't exist. It's not real. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I said that to one of my colleagues, when you think even just, as we were being brought over into some of our ancestors that chose to jump and we define that as suicide, it's like, no, you can never really kill us, right? Like, that doesn't work on that same plane
Yeah.
for us, and I don't even know what the word was, but I'm sure it wasn't death,
Yeah.
whatever whatever that word or that language was,
Yeah.
you know. It's like, no, I actually don't want to be here anymore. Like I'm going back home.
Done.
Like,
Yeah. That's
yeah,
it. It's all good. You lot carry on, but I'm
right.
not. I'm not. I I've always had this thing about what we call suicide because it something just doesn't sit right with me, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I started to do a series of films, not films, videos. I have started to do a series of videos, and I call them Cleopatra. Kind of, just Cleopatra. I've not formulated it yet properly in my mind, but the reason why I've called them Cleopatra as opposed to suicide is because I watched the Netflix documentary that Jada Pinkett done about
Mm,
Cleopatra.
yeah.
And at the end, in the last episode, she took her life. She
Mm,
knew what berries or what materials that she needed to make that transition in the least painful way. And she took control of the situation. She was going to be killed. She was going to be hunted, or she was going to be paraded and humiliated before she
mhm.
was killed. So she decided, no, actually, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to go because I know that, I've got options. And that made me think as well about, and I talk about this in my book, why is suicide illegal? It is
Right.
illegal because the moment you give birth to your child and you register that child now belongs to the state. They are stock.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
so when you mess about with that stock, you're messing with master's money, you
yeah,
know? He would beat you, but he wouldn't kill you because you are worth money, you
yeah.
know? So it's easier to abuse you and break you, but at
Hmm.
the end of the day, I can still get a buck for you, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I could go so much further into that. But yes, enslavement, I would have jumped anytime. Yeah, like come on, let's go. Like if I had the option now, I'm not saying
right.
that I'm suicidal, but if I
Yeah,
could go, I'd be like, yeah, come on then. I'm out. Let's
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's definitely that reimagining that or just redefining suicide as like a logical, calculated decision
That's it.
versus, you know, a mental illness or a desperate yada. No, some of these people like
I'm done.
yeah, I'm done. Like to give me another option. We'll live on. No, give me another option. No, you don't have one. All right, this is it.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm tired.
yeah, yeah,
There's been so many times when I've just been tired. I'm exhausted, you
yeah,
know. Just let me go. I'm done. I'm
yeah,
still here. I don't have the
yeah.
privilege of dying, and I'm all right now. Like
Mm,
I'm all right where I am. I'm
yeah.
nice, but sometimes, and I get it. When
Hmm.
I look around and I just see there are people who are just tired,
Hey, yeah,
and the
yeah.
reasons why they stay is because they don't want to bring shame on the family, or who's going to look after the kids, or they've got bills and debts and stuff like that. And I'm like, at the end of the day, none of it really matters because we're all going to die.
Hmm.
We're all going
Yeah,
to die, and it's okay.
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah,
And it's a good thing about that, you choosing if we call it assisted suicide, whatever have you. At least you got a date. At least
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
You know. and that's where that the other point you made about just a lack of community, like
Yeah,
that's all the difference. If you have, you know, if you have those community bonds, those community links,
yeah,
and I think we've said this in a roundabout way, like there's just no mechanisms in place in our community to be able to deal with really anything effectively in my mind. Be, from womb to grave, the lack of community structure,
yeah,
is just nowhere near what it was and is nowhere near what it is. But it's still there's still chance that it could be. But that's just where all the work comes in.
yeah,
And that would make, I know in my realm, death a ton, death just you turn that into something else when you have your community there
mm,
with you, when
mm,
you have support there with you. And I'm not just talking about the people showing up at the funeral. Like I always
yeah,
tell folk, like the real work is after,
yes, yeah,
the real work is after,
yeah,
that the people who are there after, when people stop showing up, that's your community.
that's
That's
it.
your folks that are going to be there for you. And it's not enough people. It's
No, it's
never
not.
enough folks.
No, it's
Never
not.
enough folks. What what does it take? Because you said it's not the funeral industry is not regulated
Mm,
in England. So I mean, what's the qualifications? You just show up one day and like, oh, I want to be a funeral director.
yeah,
Wow. So
yeah.
is embalming a thing here or not really?
Embalming, embalming.
Yeah.
Yes, embalming is a thing. I have a beautiful sister who is a highly qualified embalmer.
Mhm.
She also did a master's in um, theatre makeup
Oh,
uh,
really? Okay. Yeah.
and movie makeup, so that
Hmm.
she could be a reconstruction um,
Hmm.
engineer as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, technician,
Yeah,
reconstruction.
right, right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So as far as I'm concerned, she is the highest qualified embalmer in the whole of the UK.
Hmm.
We don't have many. I'm aware of another one black embalmer, I think maybe down south, kind of in Essex, maybe, um, to that standard,
Yeah.
perhaps. Yeah. I'm I know that there are people who are training.
Hmm.
And again, if there are more, then I would be calling for them like, come on, we need you. Because the regulators of the embalmers do not recognize black skin.
Hmm.
They refuse to identify it as different or needing any different kind of work.
Right.
So oftentimes, if a white person is doing your funeral, if they embalm your body, then sometimes, you look in the casket and you're like, who the hell? Like, what is this?
Right. Yeah.
Like, what's going on here?
Right.
It can be really frightful. And
Yes.
they don't like it when we say, can we bring our embalmer in to do the work? You
Hmm.
know, they take it as a slight on their work, but their work, they can't work with us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Literally, white folks are the same everywhere because it's the exact same in the States. Or
Right,
same thing.
right.
Same thing,
Mm.
And my students are always like, huh, when I'm like, yeah, so like this is a very like highly racialized, very racist.
Yes.
Um, there's a lot of racism in this industry.
Yeah.
No, there's not. Well, how? I'm like, like you can you can go through it.
Yeah. You
It's the
experience.
same exact story. Like
Yeah.
it is literally the same story. But once again, which is why I find that like I take it for granted that it's, I'm not going to you. Why would I go to you? Like I'm gonna go to my folks and
Yeah.
tell them to their face I'm not going to go to you. Like,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
think that in America, I think that you guys are the most advanced. in this because you were segregated and because of the
Hmm.
levels of racism. You had no choice but to set yourselves up. And I
Hmm.
congratulate you. We are kind of trailing behind you. But then we've got brothers and sisters in South Africa. You would
Yeah.
think that in Africa or in the different countries of Africa that they would be kind of more advanced as well. But in South Africa, they've got a real struggle there
Mm.
because their white funeral counterparts, again, are being given everything that they need, and the black funeral directors are basically left wanting, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Dr. Cami and I are also working with Klankla Bembe, who is the owner of founder of an organization called SACU in South
Hmm.
Africa. And the plan is that we all come together, and just try and get as many different people from as many different countries so that we can strengthen ourselves on a global scale.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or at least, from an education standpoint anyway.
that's it. And
Yeah.
share knowledge,
Yeah.
share wisdom,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it strengthens us.
Absolutely.
Mm,
Mm.
yeah. Wow, that was deep.
Yeah. Oh man.
Mm,
It's so much that's gotta my mind is like doing this thing now. All the moving. I'm working on this. Um, me and another. I'm working with a data scientist friend of mine. We're working on this concept called death equity.
oh,
Um,
okay.
so and this is where I say like there's nothing new. Like we just happen to I just happen to be thinking one day and probably had a little too much to drink and said that should however that happened.
Yeah,
But essentially, like how do we and I don't know if this is like conversation that's up in the UK, but in the US, this word equity is getting thrown around in relation to equality,
yes.
So health equity is a big thing. The wealth gap is a thing, here also. And I'm like, on my end, all this stuff meets up at, on in the death sphere.
Yeah.
It all kind of converges there. Like,
It's
okay, yeah, there's a
crazy.
wealth gap. Like, yeah, there's a wealth gap, but then we know that black people are getting robbed of their wealth when they die because we don't have anything in place or we don't know
Yeah,
how to put things in place. Like, yeah,
yeah,
there's a health equity, there's always going to be a health equity thing going on. Um, but then when we die, like there's and you pointed this out, there's no mechanisms for grief there after that because we get left with all this stuff,
yeah, yeah.
you know, so it's like how can we be like level trying to figure out how to level the postmortem playing field. You know,
Do you know how
it's
big that is? That's so much work.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
There is so much to do. My cousin and I had a conversation about this, and he was very much. Bear with me a second. I'm just going to turn the plug on.
all right,
Yeah, he was very much talking about equity as well. You know, it's not about equality at all,
yeah, yeah,
ever. I've never
yeah,
been a fan of equality. I don't need equality. I don't.
right, right,
You can't give me anything. Yeah, I've got it.
yeah,
But
exactly.
this equity, and I always say death is everything. It's at the
Mhm.
center of everything. It's just everything. And when it comes to equity, there are so many things that I could say, but I had a conversation with an academic woman the other day who is, I think she's Anglo Asian.
Mm.
And she was talking about how that they have power. They have power. I'm like, nobody has power. You do what you've got to do. When you go to them and say we want reparations, you need to pay us back, like, take it. It's yours. you know
Right,
you're putting yourself under their authority when you go to them and say you need to do this, can you do that? you know you're giving them power over you. Every day we give them power over us, and we can govern ourselves. And I suppose how I talk is like, I suppose, threatening to the institutions or whatever, but
Of course.
I don't understand why we haven't had black funeral directors. We've been over here since, we talk about Windrush, and it's
Yeah.
like, so we came over here, and then what did we do with our bodies?
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
we can give ourselves equity, we can get equity, we can create it. I suppose we are so broken in our minds that we don't know how it's done. But oh my gosh, I had a conversation with a friend of mine 2 days ago, and she said, and this is levels, and it wasn't even, she didn't even say it in the context that we're talking now, but it's just come to me. We are dealing with right brain problems
Hmm.
using left brain solutions,
Hmm.
right? We are spiritual, right brain, everything, we are right brain people naturally. But
Hmm.
the systems that have been created by the Europeans,
Yeah.
essentially, they are left brain people, aren't they? One
Hmm.
and one equals two, therefore XYZ. We're nature, we are of the earth.
Hmm.
So, why are we actually engaging in conversations about reparations? Why are we engaging in conversations about equity and trying to be on a par and level up with them in their systems that were not built for us, but off us? you know I hope that doesn't
Right.
tear your work apart, because your work is valid. We do need to look
Oh
into
no,
it.
no, 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 no. Because look, yeah, I mean, ultimately, and this has always been my feeling, like we just gonna have to leave.
Yeah, lost you, Edwin. Edwin,
Is
I keep losing you.
I think that oop,
Are you there,
lost you there.
Edwin? Okay, so we seem to have lost
Oh, you
Edwin.
still there?
I'm here.
Oh,
Are
are you still here?
you there? Hi.
Okay, still here. Okay, I'm about to say,
Right.
see, we
Okay.
started saying some stuff and they got to pulling the plug.
That's what happens all the time. Yeah, I
Yeah,
find it happens a lot when it gets this heated.
yeah.
Because when we get together, right, being
Mm-hmm.
melanated, our energy rises, our vibration rises.
Hmm.
This is why over here, if there's more than three people together, then it's classed as a gang, and you need to
Really?
disperse. Yeah, that was something that
Mm.
came up in like the 90s. They can't afford for us to be together, because when we're together, we radiate joy
Hmm.
despite the oppression that we're under. When we get together and we're having conversations, there's a spirit involved, and
Yeah,
it's risen.
yeah.
So I'll calm myself down. You you were saying something, and I
Oh
lost you.
no, no, no. I was saying, like, it doesn't tear my work apart at all. I'm actually of the opinion that you know, we want to, or how we want to. I think it's really where I think we need to re-examine the possibility of just leaving completely. The issue is like of where we go, I don't know. But you know, I think I think it's worth another discussion, like of trying to, like, even just what you just said, like we can't even gather and be happy because
Yeah.
we're perceived as a threat. So like our energy can't even expand in the way that it wants to
Mm.
because it's going to get stifled by the white gaze at minimum, by billy clubs and guns at max, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So no, I'm of that opinion. All the discourse on, you know, freedom And if we just protest enough and if we just vote enough, that's good and all, but it just might be time for us to go, you know. And if I ever have kids, that's something I'm probably really going to think about is now where we go out, it might have to be Indonesia. And the funny thing is, I'm like, unfortunately, like, I can't go back to Africa. I don't have any ties there. You know, I might have to just gentrify a whole nother country. I might have to gentrify a space, and I'd hate to do it, but but
It's
yeah, no.
interesting. What you're saying is really interesting because I recently went abroad for the first time in a decade. It was very weird experience for me. But when I was there, I was like, what am I doing? Really?
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
really, what am I doing? I've always said I'm not staying in England. England can have my life. You're not having my death. You
Yeah.
know, I've always said that I'm not staying in England, and I found now where I want to be.
Mm,
So I've always said I don't want to go. I'm Pan African, but I don't want to go to Africa.
mhm.
My parents were Jamaican. I don't want to go to Jamaica. Number one, right? I've always been called a coconut. I'm black on the outside, but I'm not black on the inside. And, I'm
Mm,
not black enough and all this kind of stuff. I've gone past the stage in my life where I want to be accepted or recognized as being black enough. Like I don't care enough.
yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
Laura. I can only be Laura,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then also when we look at Africa and the Caribbean, they are still very much colonized. They are still very
Yes.
much enslaved. Their minds are very, very tied in ways that it's Edwin, there's so much I want to say to you, but it's like if I was to go over to those spaces, that's not necessarily going to equate to freedom for me.
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
Right. So I have found where I
Yeah.
want to be, and I'm now sort of working towards that. And the good thing about how I work, I'm less and less looking to be on hands on. I'm looking less and less to be hands on and more to be on online.
Yeah.
Having said that, I'm also aware that this is not safe. Like, look at us, we're having a conversation, and the powers that be are disturbing it. So
Mhm.
I'm really at the point now where I'm thinking, I'm going to be over there. And if you want me, come and see me, you know,
Yes.
or if you
Yes.
want me, pay for me and I'll come and see you.
Yes.
How things are running at the moment is going to have to stop because in the work that we do, Edwin, whether it's the academic side or the practical side, this is
Hmm.
tiring work. This is heavy.
Exactly.
Death work
Yep.
is heavy. It's all consuming, as you've
Fuming.
explained.
Yes. Yes.
And we need our energy. We need to be in the sun because we are
Mhm.
sun people. We need to be eating good food and living
Mhm.
off the land.
Yes.
So, it's got to be done. I feel like I'm just ranting at you. I'm sorry.
I thought I was ranting at you.
Oh no, please rant. I'm so glad to be having this conversation with you because it's not many people that I can speak to on this level about
Mhm.
the work and the whole picture.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And then there's there's like-minded people. Like, who knew? Yeah, I didn't know. So then, and because Cammy had mentioned you like maybe a year ago when I guess she came to the UK and there was a
Yeah,
conference or something. So
yeah,
she had mentioned that and was like, oh, y'all should link. And I'm like, hey, link me up. So
yeah,
it's nice to hear another like mind, and then also you operate outside of my profession in so many ways, but you operate within also.
yes,
And then I was looking through your website the other day, and I was like, this is doing because I thought about doing something very similar,
right,
um, of like operating outside of the giving people the option to operate outside of the industry because you really our stuff is regulated to a degree, but
right,
90% of the stuff you don't need me for. You just
Yeah,
come to me because it's convenient,
yeah,
and you have the money to pay for it,
yeah,
but you don't have to go through me.
yeah,
So just provide that other option.
yeah.
Um,
It is about
but yeah,
educating, isn't it?
it,
Because
it is. It is. Yeah,
there
exactly.
is so much that people don't know. We had a funeral director last year who was keeping the bodies of our elders because he was a black funeral director. He was keeping them in like a storage container kind of thing.
Mm,
And he had them in like sitting room settings. Yeah. And if you can kind of imagine, I don't know, 1950s, a sitting room, a front
yeah.
room with sofa and,
Mhm.
doilies and, rug on the floor. He had like about six embalmed bodies just laying around. And there was an uproar, oh my gosh, we're going to have to do something about this. Where is the authorities? He was arrested, but they can't do nothing. He ain't broken no laws.
Right.
So it really was about sort of educating people and saying he hasn't broken any law, he hasn't done anything wrong. You know, the bodies may be embalmed, they're not in a fridge, there were flies. He
Yeah.
did have a dog as well. He had a dog. He had several habits, it would seem, that were not really that,
Yeah.
good. I suppose like drinking and smoking.
Yeah.
He's not broken any laws,
Right.
and so if that's what can happen, then
Hmm.
we don't know what's happening. Simple as that.
Exactly. Exactly. Nope. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-mm-mm.
So please do, if you are, like, if you can, please do set up a directory or some kind of something because, yeah, we will link with you just as we've
Yeah.
linked with Saku in South Africa.
Yeah.
There
So,
needs to be,
so, so here's what I'm doing now, and I hope you'll be willing to participate. We are myself and another funeral director, one of my old mentors. We've created a podcast that's called we're calling it the Burial Ground Podcast, and very much like is very much education based while also trying to connect every all the Black folks that are in the death sphere,
yeah,
whether you're like yourself and you're working everywhere around within and in the UK at that,
yeah,
or you're like me and you just, you work in a funeral home setting, but we're using this as a platform to educate consumers, educate um, families, people that are outside, inside the industry, and ultimately just connect,
yeah.
just could connect us all together. Because I think we both have kind of said it. We don't talk enough at
Yes,
all. We don't talk enough. We don't even know that we exist out here.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that we're. I didn't know that we were doing this work out there. And well, yeah, well, but how I would have never known about you had Cammy not. She's tapped in ways that I didn't even know were that these things were even happening
yeah.
out
She
out
is
out, out
amazing.
here in the world. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we have to. But that's one of the purposes of our podcast. We haven't launched it yet. We're kind of collecting up episodes at the moment, and I'm playing with equipment and technology, which is not my strong suit. Um,
Okay.
but I would love to have you on with myself and my mentor
Yeah.
whenever you have some time.
Yes, certainly. And there will be other people as well that I would be able to recommend who would be itching to speak to you, especially our brother in South Africa as well, to explain the situation because it is quite dire. Um,
Absolutely.
I have a radio show in the UK every Monday, 2 till 4,
Mm.
and I'm speaking each week about subjects pertaining to dying, death, and grief.
Oh wow.
Um, so yeah, that goes out over the radio. I also do it simultaneously via Zoom. So then I
Hmm.
edit this and then I put it onto my YouTube channel. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so yes, I think yes is the answer basically. I tend to go around the houses. Yes, I'll be involved in your podcast. Thank you for the
Thank
opportunity.
Yes, yes, yeah. Oh, she'll be when I told her I was coming to the UK and I'm gonna speak to somebody who's in the deaf sphere, she's like, "Oh, link me in." And I was like, "Yeah, so it'll be like 6 a.m. where you are. So
Yeah.
you I know you have kids. Don't you may want to just take a
No,
nap." So, so she was like, "Thank you. But ask her about the podcast if she'll come onto the podcast." I was like,
absolutely.
I'll ask her." So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what we've discussed so much, Edwin. Would you have any problems with me putting this onto my YouTube channel? Because I think that what we've discussed would be a real eye opener and real
mhm.
sort of education kind of razor
Yeah,
vibration.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'd let you watch it first, you know, and then approve it if you're happy with it, and I can cut
Oh, that'd
anything.
be yeah, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
Yeah. But you know, when we have conversations like this, we really do have to capture the moment because you're in America and I'm, well, no, you're here, but you're an American and
Mhm,
I'm here, you know, a black British person.
mhm.
And I struggle over that because it's the whole African Caribbean of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
diaspora black,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. And the diaspora we don't talk like we should.
that's it. Yeah.
Imagine if I always say this in class, like imagine if the diaspora talked, like and like really made real efforts to talk again. Like we were trying in the Pan-African movement and some of these other movements, but like it's like, what if we really tried to speak to each other again? Like really tried to talk to each other.
And listen, and listen. It would be amazing. It's a game changer. Literally,
Mhm,
that's all it takes for us to talk to each other,
mhm,
you know? And yeah, this is why conversations like this are necessary, you know? It's necessary. You know, I have a sister who is Nigerian, and she said, you know, Laura, when they took you guys, they took the best.
mhm,
They they left the children, the people that were too young to breed, and they took those that were too old to breed. They took
mhm,
everybody in the middle. And so they took the teachers, the parents, they took the educationers, they took the medicals, they took everybody, you know, of any kind of, you know, who were the community.
mhm.
And part of me says that they also, I believe that there was a science behind it,
Absolutely.
you know? So you're going there because you're that type of person, and you're going there because you're that type of person. And I had a
Absolutely.
conversation with a spiritual brother, and I said to him, okay, so we're all black, yeah? But why is it that people who are Grenada have a different kind of mindset and energy to people who are from Jamaica or from Nigeria or from Zanzibar or Zimbabwe?
Mhm, mhm,
And he was saying it's the land, you know,
mhm,
it's the land. They are growing off the energy of the land in that space, you know, and they are in tune with that land. Well, in the UK, this isn't our land. We're not eating food that's indigenous to us. We're
mhm,
not having water that's indigenous to us. You know, the environment, the sun, the chemtrails, all of it. But I strongly believe that there was something special about us why we were removed.
mhm.
You know, had we have still been left there, who knows what the continent would look like? Who
Right.
knows?
Wakanda.
Yeah, literally, you know, literally. And that's the biggest threat, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the
Hmm.
simplest thing that we can do is talk and
Yeah.
talk without fear, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I've had people in the past say to me, oh, you know, this person's going to steal your idea. This person's going to go and do this, that, and the other. Did you see how she was looking when you were talking? And I'm like, no, because I don't see competition. I can't do this myself. I can't do it
Right.
on my own. I didn't come to
Right.
earth to do it on my own. I've set up FACFO, but if the community doesn't get involved, then there's no FACFO. It's as simple as that.
Exactly. 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 Yeah.
The more of us who are doing it, the better. If somebody listens to this conversation and then thinks, oh, yeah, I can do that better than her, I can do it better than him, please do it.
Right. And call me and tell me that you're doing it better, please. Like,
Educate me. Yeah, let me know. Yeah, we need you. We need our people. We need our, and I'm going to stop ranting because I'm just going on. But, there's such an attack. Here I go. I'm going anyway. There is such an attack on our brothers, on our men in our communities. There's an attack on both sides.
yeah,
But we need our brothers. We need our men. We need you guys. We need you. It's as simple as that. There's no us without you and vice versa. And we need to
right.
be sticking closer together. We need to be having these conversations. They're not attacks. They're
Mhm.
just conversations. This is how I see it. Well, this is how we see it. And then this is how it is. And then we can
Yes,
see how we've been divided and how we've been torn apart and who the
exactly.
actual common enemy is.
Yeah, we have lost complete sight of that. It was easier when they were, had legislation and was throwing rocks at us and all that other stuff.
Yeah,
Now, now you don't know, you it's like you can't tell.
that's it. That's
Yeah,
it. There's an
yeah.
expression, not all skin folk are
Like
kinfolk.
kinfolk. Yeah, yeah.
It's a
Mm,
sad situation.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's conversations like this that are like it's sad, but there's still and I'm not necessarily a hopeful person, but the conversations like this get me amped up enough to be like, ooh, maybe
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
maybe there's something there. But
yeah,
yeah, but please let's keep our conversations going, you know.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm very much up for that. So when you do go back to America, um, yeah, just kind of give me a time and I'll be able to jump on the Zoom.
yeah.
Um, and we'll find time. Like I'm definitely one for finding the time
Oh,
to do.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah. And
Yeah.
let's just keep these conversations going.
Yeah. I have loved this so much. Thank you so much, time. Thank you so much for taking your time, Laura. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
this so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Welcome. And you just thank you for the work you do and the direction that you're going in as well. Um, are you affiliated with a particular university?
Morgan State is one of the historical Black colleges in Maryland where I live.
Right, okay. Yeah, we don't have black colleges either. So
Ah, that's a whole nother conversation. I find that interesting also. But
it's
yeah.
interesting because Meghan Markle, when she married Harry, she actually was like, what do you mean less than 2% of black people are lecturers and professors in the UK? And she had said that she was going to see if she could do something about that, you know, but we
Well,
can't have that, can we? We
no,
can't have you talking about,
no.
what's wrong with this world and this
Right.
institution.
That's the next conversation to be had.
Of course. Yeah, I will let you go.
All
Um,
right.
but it's been great
Yeah.
speaking with you.
Yeah.
First,
You too.